All right, I think we are live. All right, sister, how are you today?
I'm good.
Me too. Happy
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
OMG, can you believe that it's already the end of September?
No, but it
M-
is.
I know, right? Me neither. So, but here's the thing about that. The year came and the year went, and we still have 3 months to go with our year.
Yes.
And we've been doing Transformation Tuesday for a while, and we've been sharing with our audience lots of goodness,
Yes.
and they've been sharing with us their emotions. They've been sharing with us lots of goodness. So not only have we been giving them gems and nuggets, but we've been learning from our audience. So welcome everybody to Transformation Tuesday. This is Stacy and Dee, and today we're going to talk about a very complicated subject around vulnerability.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Hold
um,
on, Stace. Before we get started, let's share. Okay, let's share. I'm trying to
okay,
share. Yeah, cause
sure.
yes.
Let's do it. So if you're on, hold on and hang in there with us while I share. Um, make sure that this is going out to Dee's community. And there we go. All
Hmm.
right, just shared it with Dee's community. So today we're going to talk about vulnerability. And on Transformation Tuesday, the intent of what we do is really to open a dialogue. So when and if you join us, let's have a dialogue. And if you catch us on the replay, put any questions you may have or any comments. We welcome that because it is through your engagement that we can really make this show happen, right?
Yes. Yes.
So today it's about vulnerability, and we want to know, is being vulnerable good or bad, right? So Dee, what made you choose the topic of vulnerability today?
Because I'm doing well amongst talking to other people. I'm
Hmm.
doing some inner work, and
Yes.
that's one of the things I'm working on.
Ah, being
Yeah.
vulnerable.
Yes.
Yes. So I have a book to share that I'm going to hold up and show everyone. I posted it on my Facebook recently, and it's by Bren Brown, and it's called Daring Greatly.
Hmm.
And this book was introduced to me in 2016, and I really didn't even know what it was about. Daring Greatly,
Yeah. Greatly.
Daring Greatly.
Okay.
And it's all about vulnerability. It is all about helping people to understand the myths around vulnerability. And I'm telling you, it changed my entire world. So when I started reading this book was 2016 September. I remember the day the person gave it to me.
Oh wow.
I had that because it made a profound impact on my life.
Hmm.
So I had just left, resigned from my job that I had for, I call it a job, but it was really a career for
Hmm.
21 years.
Wow.
21 years in the same company. Yes, I'd done different things. And by that time, um, I was a manager, and I loved the people. I loved what the company had to offer. But at that time in my life, it no longer served me. And there are many reasons why that job didn't serve me anymore after 21 years. And one of the main reason was because I felt like it no longer aligned with my values, and I felt like I was having to compromise who I was to continue to do this job. And it just didn't feel right at all. So I resigned, and I resigned abruptly. And when I left, I was scared and excited at the same time. And it just so happened, day after I resigned, I was at a friend's house in the neighborhood, and one of her guests loaned me this book to
Oh
read.
wow.
She was
Okay.
just like, "Oh, you just made a transition, you just made a change. You should read this book." And I took it home and I started reading it and I couldn't put it down.
Okay.
And it was talking about being vulnerable. It was the entire book is about being vulnerable. And um, hello, Mimi. The entire book was about being vulnerable and talking about your emotions and the shift that if you allow them to come out, what what will happen in your life. Thank you
Mhm.
for joining us, Mimi. We're talking about vulnerability. Is it good or is it bad? And so I started reading that book, and it changed my entire world. It not only validated to me that I'd made the right decision, as scary as that decision was for leaving a job, a career after 21 years, but it validated to me why I was starting to feel uncomfortable in the position and that it was time to make a shift. So, the reason why I'm talking about this book, it's because it's all about the topic, daring greatly. It's also because um, it is something that if you really want to work on your emotions and understanding whether vulnerability is good or bad, I'm telling you, check it out. All
Okay.
right.
I'm about to look at that.
So, daring greatly. So, let me ask a question, guys. If you're on the chat, oh, Mimi read it. You read that book. And she said, for me, it was amazing. Yes, yes. It literally was like 10 years of therapy session wrapped up in one book.
Oh wow.
It really was amazing. I must say that. Hey Juanita, welcome, welcome. And Angel, welcome, Angel. So let's talk about what is vulnerability. What is it? And I'm going to tell y'all, when I read, this is going to make you guys just laugh. When I read what the definition of vulnerability is, it's going to scare you. I'm being honest because that it's a scary definition. So if you do if you do Google vulnerability, it's going to say to feel vulnerable is to feel susceptible to
Yeah.
physical or emotional
Emotional pain.
attack or harm. But
Yeah.
wait, harm,
Um.
guys. So let me say something. If somebody came to me and said, "Hey, do you want to be vulnerable?" If you're vulnerable, it's going to make you feel emotionally sick and you're going to feel attacked and you're going to feel like somebody's harming you. I would say no thanks.
Right. No
I would,
thanks.
right? What about you? If somebody came to you with that definition about vulnerability, I would straight up be like, I'm going to pass on vulnerability today. But if you really move past the definition, because the definition is real, is just telling you what can happen from vulnerability, not necessarily how it will affect your life. And
Okay.
so if you move past the definition and just start breaking that definition um, in pieces, susceptible to physical or emotional attack. We all have emotions
Yep.
and they attack us all the time.
Yes. Yes.
Whether
Yes.
we are vulnerable or not, it attacks us all the time. And then it says attack or harm. Don't be afraid of the definition. The definition is telling you the things that can happen, but it's not telling you the beauty that you can get from being vulnerable. So that's the piece that I really want to talk about. Um, and Dee, please, as you are working through this journey of allowing yourself to be vulnerable,
Hmm.
please tell us, like, what is your biggest hang up about it?
Okay, here we go. Now I'm gonna cry because I've been.
That's
If I
okay.
cry, it's gonna be ugly cry. I used to tell everybody when I was doing my lives, I don't cry, but if I cry, that means I'm having a breakthrough, and that's awesome because I've been doing a lot of hard work. I think the hardest part for me was to no to be open to people because sometimes when you open to people,
Yes.
people use the information you share with them
Mhm.
at a later date to hurt you. If that makes sense to you, but
That
if
makes
that makes sense
perfect
to the
sense.
audience,
Yes.
and I know, and I look for times that happen. And I
Yes.
know one time, well, not recently, was when I shared something with my husband, and we had a disagreement, and he said it back to me, and I was like, "Oh shit," you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
If you love me, you don't use people's words against them like
Yes.
that. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? So yeah, so I went, I started burying stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Putting little boxes, hot, just
Yes.
going deep. Yeah. So it's
So
yeah.
I have to show this, and I'm gonna come back to Andre's
Mm.
comment. But Angel wants you to know that it is okay to cry, and
Thank you.
and she
Yeah.
knows it's okay to cry
Yeah.
because this is what this is all about. It's called Transformation Tuesday for a reason. It's for people to come on and dialogue with us and have breakthroughs. But welcome, Andre. And Dre says vulnerability can be a pathway to blessings
Yep. That's true.
if we're not consumed by fear. And man, that your comment is compact with a lot of what we're going to talk about
Yeah.
today because it is a pathway. And that's why I shared the definition, but I moved away from the definition quickly because I'm encouraging people to not be afraid of the definition because of all of the goodness that can come from you being vulnerable.
Absolutely.
And to your point, it's the worst thing ever that will shut us down is when we become afraid, to
Yep.
Dre's comment,
Hmm.
of being vulnerable is when we are vulnerable and people use our vulnerability against us,
Absolutely.
especially people we love.
Yeah.
That's the worst because
Yep.
those are the people we think we can be vulnerable with. Those are the people that we think that we could share what I call our naked truth.
Yep.
Because I'm all about my naked truth these days. Can't nobody shut me up with that.
Right.
And so if we're not at the place where you can share your naked truth and not really care what people say or do, then when it is used against you, it's the worst form of betrayal, I
Yeah.
think. But that's my opinion on it.
Yeah.
But that's why Dre's comment is so profoundly accurate, in
That's true.
my opinion, because vulnerability can be a pathway to blessings if we're not consumed by fear. But the fear that we get is what we think people are going to do. How are they going to criticize, judge? We may lose people in the process of being vulnerable. We can lose a job in the process of being vulnerable.
Yeah.
It can be uncomfortable, and it's really an uncertain. It can be uncertain. So that is like, in my opinion, the negative side of the house. And then the blessings that Dre is talking about. Hey, homie, this is a homie from high school, y'all. And the blessing that Dre is talking about is the gains you can get from it is you can live authentically. You get to be authentic. Um, you let yourself be seen, right? You can allow yourself to be seen. And I'm not talking about showboat scene. I'm talking about the
Yeah.
scene of you being who you truly are from the inside out, your real self,
The authentic stuff.
your
Yes.
authentic self. Not
Masked off. Yep.
yes,
Mask off.
you said it just the way I was
Yeah.
going to say it.
Yeah.
The mask off. You take off the mask and all it's allowing others too, because when you let yourself be seen, it awakens that purpose that you have within you. Vulnerability can do that.
Yep.
And then guess what it does, y'all? Guess what it does? It allows others, it allows others
To be
to
free. Yep.
to be free.
Yep. Yep. That's
So
true.
vulnerability is not just about your freedom.
No.
And I love this. In a weird way, vulnerability is freedom. It's not even a weird
Well,
way, Dre.
it
It's
is.
100%
Percent.
is. And I'm speaking from me, from my experience. I've never felt freer in my entire
That's
life.
awesome.
And I'm being, and it's given me like gooseys just to say it, because it's so real. And it's not because all of the problems in the world is gone from my life. It's because I've learned to be vulnerable. I've learned to share my story. I've learned to be exactly who I am authentically without worrying about what other people are going to say.
Good.
So it's not even in a weird way. In a fantastic, super fragile, elastic, expialidociously way.
That's true. And I think sharing is for healing only, not never for a response. I'm learning that. I learned that the hard way.
Yes,
So yep.
yes.
Yep.
Freedom from others' perspective, having power. Yes.
Yep.
Listen, Erica, let me tell you something, sister. That's another one of my homies from high school, my sister friend from way back. Let me tell you something about that I've learned. When you are able to tell the naked truth, and I call it naked truth. I only want naked people in my life.
Right.
I mean, naked friends. I want naked truth. And if you can't be naked and you can't shed that, if you have to keep that mask on, then it's really difficult to deal with you,
Yep.
because then you're not bringing forth your real self.
Right.
So I have a saying: if you have secrets and you share them, they're no longer secrets.
True.
And most of the times, the things that we call secrets are the things that's within us, the emotions that we're feeling, the guilt that we carry, the shame that we carry, all of those negative emotions that we carry within us, that we are afraid that if we release those, we're going to be judged, criticized, dropped as a friend, dropped as a spouse, all of those things,
Yeah.
right? But there is a price and a sacrifice that we have to make in order to be our authentic self, which is why I popped up Juanita's authentic self. We have to make sacrifices. And the sacrifice typically is not everybody is going to agree with the way we're sharing our vulnerable self.
Nope.
Not everybody is going to like our vulnerable self, because some people really like the self that's suppressed,
Yeah.
the self that is in pain, the self that can't really be who they are, because it may sound like a cliche, but misery really do love company.
Mm. Ain't that the truth?
Okay? And so some people will prefer that person. Angel says, I've learned that if you're vulnerable with someone, there is no guarantee that they will honor that. But
That's
that's
true.
not something that should keep you from being vulnerable. Oh my goodness, I love it, because guess what? That's their stinking loss.
Yep.
That's how I look at it.
Yep.
And show me who you are, and then I know how to deal with you.
True.
And so I don't stop being vulnerable. I don't stop being vulnerable because you're a bleep. I'm trying
Yeah.
to keep my tongue right. No, I don't stop being vulnerable because you don't like it. That's your business.
That's
And
true.
I'm not talking about being a jackass to someone and call that vulnerability. I'm really talking about, with true intentions of who you are, sharing your true self, sharing your true emotions, because that's what vulnerability is. Let's see. Juanita, keep the comments coming. We love it. A price and sacrifice you're willing to make. Yes,
Yeah.
it has to be a price and sacrifice you are willing to make. And 9 times out of 10, you have to make at least one or two or a few when you're on that journey of working through your emotions, working through your real self, working through yourself to bring out your real self.
Yeah.
Okay? Um, Angel says, being a bleep. Oh, Angel, I'm trying, because I'm going to be honest. I can be a real potty mouth. I'm not even going to. That's okay. That's my real self. I
See.
really do come with some of those words. So I have to help. I have to bring it in. I have to reel it in. Um, so Erica says your vulnerability is a trigger for those stuck in the shadows.
That's true.
Oh, sister, yes. How lovely is that comment? You know what? That's a quote. You should coin it and put Erica Evans next to it because that is so true. I'm gotta read it again. Your vulnerability is a trigger for those stuck in the shadows.
Why do
The
you think that is, Stacy and
Er-
who said it? Erica.
Erica.
Erica, why do you think that is? I just
And
wanna.
and while Erica is typing, I'll tell you what my thoughts are on that.
Okay.
My thoughts on that are if you're not ready, so it's me and you,
Mhm.
D. And if D is not ready to shed some of that and show some of that shame and some of that guilt and some of that other negative emotions that we carry.
I can't hear.
My
Ah.
my mic went weird for a minute, but I'm back.
Okay, I was like, what happened?
Yeah. So when the person who is sharing and they're ready to shed their vulnerability, to be vulnerable, to shed their emotions and talk about some of those negative emotions, which normally are tied around guilt and
Shame.
shame, right? When they do, and fear, when they do that. So let's say I'm that person. D gets really uncomfortable because deep down within D, she is feeling that very thing. And
Hmm.
so it's kind of like an honesty when I shed it and I'm free about it. It makes other people uncomfortable because they're still wrapped up in it, trying,
Yep.
maybe they're trying to work through it, maybe they're not, but it really is a thing that makes people uncomfortable. So I really love that quote. Your vulnerability is a trigger for those stuck in the shadows. When you're not ready and other people come around you, you ever had somebody tell you you're way too happy?
Yeah, all the time.
I mean, who says that? You're way too happy. So instead of embrace your happiness makes them uncomfortable.
Yes. Yep.
That's what I think that quote is about. And Erica says, I see you growing through something. Oh, okay. I see you growing through something that has plagued them for years, even decade. There is a generation raised to leave things unspoken.
Wow. Look,
Wow.
mic drop.
Look.
Mic drop.
I'm going to pretend I'm at a poetry reading. Yes.
And this is just my take on it. I think it was Brene Brown who said it. The shame, well, people, the shame is the threat of being unlovable. And I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Don't that make sense?
It is. As a matter of fact, and I am going to find it in a minute after I read some of these other comments. In this book that changed my life about vulnerability, there is a section about shame. And she talks about shame is about not feeling connected.
Yeah.
And if you say the things that you're ashamed of, you're going to feel rejected and not connected. And so I really have seen it to be the opposite. As I shed the things that I used to be ashamed of, I have become more connected. I've
Nice.
become connected to people who were carrying those same shame,
Mm-hmm.
and they needed a connection, and they needed to know that there are other people out there like that,
Yes, that's true.
and they needed to know that somebody gets me. Oh my God, you get me? You've been through that?
Yes.
So in essence, it's the flip.
Yeah.
But when you're consumed by that emotion, all you know is this shame that I have inside of
Yep.
me, if I let it out, people are going to disconnect
Yeah.
from me. So that is really profound. But let's look at some other comments. I became vulnerable with someone who completely turned it against me, but it was the greatest mistake they ever made. Yes,
Yes.
it opened my eyes and closed my heart to the unsure and unpure, allowing me to find to discover myself, pursue my purpose, and become exactly who I should
Oh.
be. Oh my God. Okay,
Yes. Woo.
let's give it. Let's give it. Just pretend we're
Yes.
at a poetry
Yes.
reading,
Yes.
y'all.
Y'all dropping the nuggets tonight. This is awesome. I needed this.
Yes.
I needed this.
Congratulations,
Yes.
Mimi. Congratulations. And you know what? Oh, that is so powerful. Mimi says she allowed herself, she's fought through her fears, and she opened up, and they used it against her, but it opened her eyes, y'all.
Oh yeah.
Right? So
Yes.
sometimes you have to go all the way down for your eyes to be open.
Yes.
Mimi, thank you so much for sharing. And I applaud you for not using that as a defeat,
Yes.
but to using it to triumph, to be able to move forward, to be that better you, which is where vulnerability is really a thing that can help you to catapult and get to the better you. You
Yes.
know, we all have a better version of who we are inside of us.
Yep.
And so that's where apparently that worked for you, sister. I am so proud of you. Thanks for being vulnerable
Yes.
and sharing with the rest of us. And Angel, they see your freedom and know they should be free, but fear is keeping them hostage. So she's talking about, in response to Erica's comment, um, that people or who are still in the shadows are afraid of the vulnerability that others will bring out, the emotions that they bring out. And then Angel also said, the first sin was disobedience. The second sin was shame. Let it go. Listen,
Yeah.
listen. Shame, the best way to let go shame is to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just
Like
like fear.
straight
Yep.
up.
Yep. Talk to
It's
it. Yep.
talk about it. So if you're ashamed of something, what's the worst that can happen? And I always, and this is a takeaway if any of you are interested in doing this, whenever you feel any of your negative emotions, if it's guilt, if it's shame, if it's fear, do yourself a favor and find the worst thing that can ever happen in your life, and put it on a scale of 1 to 10, and tag it as whatever that thing is. The worst thing that can ever happen in my life is, and that's a 10, right? And then you see that thing that you're ashamed of or feel guilty about, rate it. If I share this with, what's the worst thing that can happen? And if it's lower than that worst thing that can happen in life, then it should give you a perspective of really what am I afraid of? Like, if the worst thing is up here off the charts, and the thing that you're worried about sharing is here, really, what are we worried about?
Right.
Right? Easier said than done, I know it, but it's a practice that I encourage clients to use, is to scale their fears, scale their guilt, scale their shame. And if they can rate that among the worst thing that can ever happen to them in life, and based on where it is, it will give them a different perspective on how to handle it. So thank you so much for that. If not for vulnerability, I'd still be stuck trying to figure out who I was supposed to be instead of use my pain as power. Oh, yeah, that's poetry in motion. Oh my God, that's poetry in motion. I love the engagement, guys. Keep coming. Erica says shame allows others to tell your story. Oh, hold on, sister. You're about to drop a gem. She's about to drop a gem. Shame allows others to tell your story.
Well, their version of it.
Or their version of it.
Yeah.
Take your power back and use your shame/experience as a platform to save, encourage, and hold others accountable. I hope that quote and the other one is in your book that you're writing, Erica.
Right.
Yes, that is awesome. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. So here's the thing. if you have a secret and you share it with the world, then it's no
It's no
longer a
longer a secret.
secret.
It's true.
And therefore, it can no longer plague you as something
Right.
that you have to worry about. You no longer have to wear a mask that says, I'm pretending to be this Yes, take it off. I'm pretending
And
to
leave it
be,
off.
and leave it off. And here's the thing, if you take off your mask and you feel phenomenal as a person, and you feel the better person coming out, and you feel your purpose awakening, and you really feel that joy happening, and then you have to put the mask back on for someone else.
Don't do it.
I'm not even going to I don't even have to tell you what you need to do or not do. Just think about that. So you take off the mask and you feel the freedom that Dre talked about, and you feel that, excitement of life, and you feel all of those things happening. And then you go around a group of friends, or you get a person in a relationship, or you have a family member, and all of a sudden you feel the need to have to put the mask back on. You need to really take inventory.
Absolutely.
That's all I'm going to
Yeah.
say, because I try not to tell people what to do, but your feelings and the physiological feelings that you have will always lead you to telling you what's the right thing to do.
Right.
Sometimes we listen and sometimes we
Sometimes we don't.
don't.
True.
Angel says, if you say it, it's not a secret anymore. Amen. That's it.
Yep.
Right there. That's
Yep.
what I was talking about. A secret is not a secret. Here we go. A secret is not a secret if it's said. Don't put the mask back on. Not at all. Please don't. Please don't. So if you're out there, we're talking about vulnerability and the need for it. We've had some awesome comments from our audience. And so is vulnerability good or is vulnerability bad? And some of the stories that I've heard so far, people could say it's both, right? Because some people are saying they were vulnerable and people used it against them. But most of what I'm hearing resoundingly is that the vulnerability has freed people. It's allowed them to live an authentic life. It's allowed them to help others to be authentic. It's allowed them to take the mask off their face. It's freed them of being afraid of whether people know who they really are or not. For me, the vulnerability have changed my life.
Nice.
And it is given me more of a connection than the fear of not being connected in the first place. Okay. So then I see a couple comments, so I'm gonna drop them in before I ask some more questions. Ryan's is funny. Halloween is coming up, and please let us not put the mask on. Leave the mask on. That's funny. Thank you for that. Thank you. We love the humor. Please don't put the mask on. And Dre says it's not just regulated to women either. Thank you.
That's true. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. It's not. And I have a platform where I have a lot of women that will come on our lives and engage with us. But every time the brothers drop in, I feel so excited because we don't want our men to hide their emotions, because society and the culture we were raised in or the household we grew up in told them that being vulnerable is weak.
Oh,
Okay?
boys don't cry. I remember telling mom that's part of the vulnerability. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah.
That's okay.
That's
No,
one
go
of the
for
things
it.
that I used to tell my sons too, because
Yes.
I didn't cry, so I didn't want my sons to be crybabies.
Yes.
But yeah. So that
And may I just ask you, where did you get that from? Where did you get the boys don't cry or stop crying, or where did you get that from?
I used to hear it all the time. What are you crying for?
Exactly. All right.
I'm gonna give you something to cry for.
There it is. But listen, So you start shutting down your children's emotions at a very young age. And then what happens is they don't know how to open it again.
Yeah.
And then they spent dollars upon dollars in therapy when they get older. Some of them don't even
Yeah.
come to that awareness. And they live a very suppressed, emotionally suppressed life. So, Dre, thank you so much for bringing that out.
That,
Um, it is not regulated to women either. Vulnerability is for everyone.
everyone. Yes.
And we need to encourage our men to show those emotions. So as a mother, I will tell you that I love this. I'm going to put it up so it could be up while I talk. Um, my daughter's crying used to make me uncomfortable because
Yes.
it triggered my postpartum depression when she was a young girl.
Mm.
And so when she was a baby. So as a young girl, anytime I would see her crying, I would try to stop it, and I'd get a little bit kind of like annoyed or frustrated, like, you don't have to cry for that, da 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you what my 11-year-old, she was then 10 because she just turned 11, said to me, and I will forever be grateful for her. And this is why I say we learn from our children.
Yes.
She said to me, Mommy, I heard you talking to one of your clients the other day, and you told them to feel it to heal it.
That's right. If you can't feel it, you
So,
can't heal it.
so she said, so I don't understand why every time I try to feel it, you tell me not to. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. I was like, ooh. No, for real.
Yeah.
It hit me like a ton of bricks. And I stopped doing it on that day. I literally made a effort, and I apologized for it. And I explained to my then 10-year-old why I was doing it. And I told her, Mommy is done doing that because I
Good.
want you to be able to express your emotions always. And so if that means you got to cry a little bit, so be it. So
That's
I'm
awesome.
telling you, oh, of course. So I'm going to come back to Angel, but Erica, Mimi says that's powerful. And Erica says out of the mouth of babes.
Absolutely.
Mimi, let me tell you something. Powerful is for real. And yes, they show us. Yes, they show us. And I'm telling you, and that's, for me to share that, when we talk about vulnerability, now let's go to Angel's comment. Vulnerability is a human experience, and we can give it whatever meaning we choose,
That's
not
right.
the Google meaning, because the Google meaning will scare you half to death. The Google meaning will have you curled up shaking for fear.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate this comment because she's right. But let me tell you, vulnerability, even coming from a 11, a 10, a then 10-year-old, please open up and accept it.
Yeah.
Because today I can share with you that none of us are perfect. As I tell my children, I'm not a perfect mom. I tell my husband, I'm not a perfect human being, and I know he's not either.
Mm.
And so it makes for an awesome, imperfect household.
There you go. That's awesome.
Right? Okay. So when my daughter was able to pull me on that, I had to just let free and say, I apologize. Mommy won't do that anymore. I didn't even realize I was doing it. I explained to her why I was doing it,
Mm-hmm.
and I won't do it anymore. I was doing it to soothe my own self.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have to allow people. So that's a segue to say we have to allow people to be vulnerable, explore and express their emotions without our stinking judgment.
Yeah. True.
We are too judgmental. All of us, none of us are excluded from this, including
No.
myself. And I just work every day to not be that person. But there's always a level of it that will rear its ugly head when things are not aligned with our belief system.
That's true.
And all of a sudden we start getting judgy, as my girlfriend Trinace calls it. I love when she said, oh, that person is being judgy. So all of a sudden we start getting judgy because what that person is doing, what that person's lifestyle is, how that person is living goes against our belief system.
Yeah.
And I say this, um, how do we know our belief system is the right system?
Right.
That's all I have to say about that one.
That's right.
So I say this, I appreciate all of these comments. They are phenomenal. So let me ask a question. Do you want to be your best self? Do you want to be your best self? And I'm gonna, from this,
Yes.
of course we do, we all do. But I'm
No,
gonna do
I
a,
don't think everybody. I don't know if I agree with that, because some people, you don't know what you don't know, if that makes sense. Because if I
yes,
hadn't had awakening a long time ago, it's like, you know,
I appreciate that. I
yeah,
appreciate that. You're right. Not everybody knows that they even have a best self.
right. So yeah, yeah.
I appreciate that. Um, Absolutely. I got to check myself all the time. Yes, 100%, Angel. Thanks for
Said check
that.
yourself before you wreck
Wreck
yourself.
yourself. You got that right. Let me find out your old school rap head.
Oh yeah.
You better check yourself before you
Before you
wreck
wreck
yourself.
yourself. What?
Now, I need somebody in my comments to tell us who sang that. Who's the rapper for that? Because I don't remember. Being vulnerable is opening up, and that carries an inherent risk of being hurt. Yes, it does. But we have to place ourselves into proper position to receive it. What?
Mm.
Hold on. Poetry reading.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yes, bro. Because dig this. I always say I brace myself. And there are conversations that I wanted to have with people for years. And I was afraid of having those conversations because they would open up a level of vulnerability that could potentially fall in any of these categories: me being criticized, me being judged, me losing that person, the discomfort that would come from it. You know what I'm saying? There was a plethora of uncertainty that came with me sharing or saying these things. So one day, I remember waking up saying, I did my what's the worst that could happen test.
Mm-hmm.
And when it didn't look like the worst that could ever happen into my life was going to happen, I was not going to die. The earth was not going to open up and swallow me in. None of that was going to happen. I said, okay, I'm going to just go in and go for it. And I'm going to tell you guys, when I did that, the person, it was my brother. Vulnerability. Let me be vulnerable. It was my brother. Something was heavy, and I felt like I needed to talk to him about it. But gosh, when I reveal what I think it is, he's gonna just hate me. He's not gonna be my brother anymore. He's not gonna love me anymore. And it was. I mean, I carried that crap. I said crap for a long time.
Yeah.
And then one day, I just decided enough. And I called him, and 3 hours of conversations later, you know what I walked away from my dear brother? My brother said, sis, you really been sitting around thinking about that mess?
Wow. Yeah. Things are always worse in our head.
It's always worse in our head, guys. Okay? My brother lightened, and I cried like a baby, y'all.
Aw.
I was on that phone. Oh my God, is that real? How you really feel? Of course, that's how I feel. Why are you carrying that? Why you been holding on to that for so long? Okay, so listen, it is worth the risk. Go ahead. You want to say something?
Yeah, because that goes back to shame. Like I was saying earlier, shame is the threat of not being lovable, right? Is that how you felt with
Yes.
that? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I felt like my brother is going to say to me, I don't love you anymore, or you're right, you did that to me, la 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 la
Yeah.
la la. And so I was afraid of what he was going to say to me. And I was afraid of, let's go back to Dre. I was afraid of the hurt, the risk
Mhm.
of being hurt. I was afraid of the hurt that was going to come from it. And when I finally decided that it is worth the risk, it's worth it. Just do it. And not only did I free my brother, I freed myself. Like I said,
Yeah.
three hours of conversation later, guys. So why do I share that? I share that to say it is very important that we allow ourselves to really work with that risk and and help ourselves. Like help yourself.
Yeah.
Take that bubble that you put, that cartoon bubble
Hmm.
that you put on top of people's head, and you let crap in there, right? You let
Yep.
crap in there, and that's not even what they're thinking in the first place. Shame, guilt,
Yep.
fear. You see those three?
Yep.
You've got to work through them. So Ryan says, yes, I choose to be myself, find my best self, and walk in my best self. Absolutely. And you can only do that by taking off the mask, no Halloween mask, and and show your real self. Mimi has a comment. I didn't want to be my best self for fear of the unknown, fear of past failures resurfacing, being comfortable in my own pain. So many people are comfortable in their pain.
Yeah.
Was familiar, and I was also scared of going through the growing pains. And oh my God, they are no joke. So I never looked forward to becoming my best self till being, here goes our
Whew.
word, vulnerable changed my entire world. Mimi,
Good for you. Yeah.
Mimi, listen, yes. And let me tell you this. I walked around for many years coaching others behind closed doors about their pain of sexual abuse, talking to people about, you know, I know what you've been through. I'm sorry that you've been through that. So have I. And touching people's lives one at a time behind, secretly, but still only sharing it with people who I thought would hold my secret of being sexual abuse. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't share it because I had on this mask. And Ryan, my mask was not a Halloween mask. It was pretty as heck.
Yeah.
Listen, I used to put on the suits. They were fly. They were expensive and they were fly. And I used to have my hair nicely wrapped. Y'all remember the wrap? Straight
Yeah.
wrap. It would fall. And I was looking like the best thing since sliced bread. And that was my mask.
Yeah.
And I drove a really nice fancy car, and that was my mask. So our masks don't always look bad. Sometimes it's shiny and pretty as heck, but beneath it is that thing that you need to let out for the world to know so that you can be your real self. So absolutely. Let's see. So my friend Dre is giving me a thumbs up, or as we call it, a
Yeah.
poetry. Um, and then perfect example of fear, false evidence of appearing
Very
real,
real.
right? So that in itself, so fear for me is twofold. I always tell people, don't be afraid of your fears. Learn what they are. Have
Mhm.
a relationship and build a relationship with those fears so that you know what trigger them, and that's the only way you'll be able to control and have control over them. Sexual misuse is a burden as well. Mm. Elaborate if you have anything you can elaborate. I would love to hear a little bit more about that. And Angel says masks don't always look bad. No, they don't, sister.
Can be really
Trust
pretty.
me.
Yeah.
They can be shiny as ever.
Yeah.
But I want to read a couple of things. Um, so shame makes you feel unworthy, like
Unlovable.
like Dee said, and unlovable and missing connection. That's what shame does. And here are some shames from the book that I read that people are shame. They feel shame because they got laid off. They don't want to tell anybody. They got laid off, and now my wife is pregnant and I have no job. I'm ashamed of that. People feel shame, shame of having someone ask me, when are you due? And they're not pregnant. So they have a little
Yeah. Ugh.
wait. So all of a sudden the shame comes over. Shame because they raged at their kids. Shame because they hit their kids, which should be another topic because I don't hit. So that's a topic I'd love to dive in one day. Shame is hiding the fact that I'm in recovery. Shame is that I'm bankrupt. Shame is that um, I am not getting that promotion that I really want. Shame is my husband is leaving me for the next door neighbor and I can't tell anybody. Shame is that I'm an alcoholic. Shame is that I'm a drug user. Shame is that I can't have kids. I'm infertile. I mean, we could just go on and on. Shame is that I am constantly on the internet looking at porn. I'm feeling ashamed of that. Shame is that my mother or my father, they weren't around when I was young. I mean, your shame could be anything, right? We cannot allow ourselves to wreck ourselves
Right.
because we are feeling this level of shame. The way to get rid of shame is to speak it.
Yeah.
The way to get rid of guilt is to act on it. Learn your lessons from regret. The way to get rid of regret, just learn your lessons from it.
Yeah.
What lessons should I have learned about XYZ?
The
And
first
once
time.
you, the first time, and try not to do it again. I
Yeah.
mean, it happens, but try not to do it again. So, poor knowledge is sex as a young adult, not knowing your worth and confusing love. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
girl. What?
Can I just tell you, hold on. Can I just tell you that's a whole transformation Tuesday in itself.
Yes. Yes.
So many of us have experienced that, not understanding. Hello.
Yep.
And especially if you were a victim of any type of sexual abuse, or if you grew up in households where it happened, or you were not, that wasn't a conversation topic, and you had to seek validation,
Yep.
all of that, Erica. Thank you for sharing that, but that's another topic. But what I really want to do is do this. I want to talk about how we should seriously wrap our minds around vulnerability. We should look at it not from, I want to summarize. We should look at it not from the dictionary or the Google, for those of us who don't use a dictionary anymore, the Google definition, because if you do, it will scare you. There is the other side of the coin to being vulnerable. There's the coin that says people will judge me, I'll lose people, I'll be criticized. And there's a risk of hurt that comes with that. And the other side of the coin, guys, is that you become to open up and shed all of those things that's been weighing you down and become who you truly need to be. Listen to this is critical, not just for yourself, but for
Others.
other people. The best thing that you can ever do in life is to be of service to
To others.
others.
Absolutely.
And if you can even just think about your vulnerability as a way to tap into the emotions, allow those emotions to trigger those feelings, feel it to heal it.
That's right.
I'll never forget that. My daughter taught me a valuable lesson. Feel it to heal it so that you can become that person, the other coin, the other side of the coin, the beautiful
A
side of the
whole
coin,
person, right?
a whole person.
Yep.
And the person we were born to be. We were born that way, we were born whole, and we just allowed things and people to cause us problems. So let me ask you a question, Dee. You
Mhm.
asked for this topic. In wrapping up, what would you share that you gained from this topic?
Tonight, it was good to know that I'm not alone. That it's something that we should have talked about like weeks ago, but I wasn't ready to share. So I was being
Hmm.
selfish. And I shouldn't see it as being selfish. I can see it as making myself whole.
Right.
So, yeah. And for people who are ashamed of whatever happened to you, it's not what happened to you, it happened for you, if that makes
Mm.
sense.
Hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. My husband has a saying. That's why I told you I love my imperfect household, because my husband has a saying. He said, good people come from bad places. Bad things happen to good
Mm,
people. He says that all the time. And then he says, I know, good people, because I remember shedding some of my things early on in our marriage. I think it's probably year one, just sharing things. And is a very quiet guy, but very observant and introspective.
hmm.
And he said with his heaviest Jamaican accent, babe, good things happen. Um, good no bad things happen to good people, and good people come from bad places.
Absolutely.
It's been in my brain embedded. Okay. And the other one that he shares a lot, that's still in my mind, is that we don't buy the things that happen to us. We did not go out there and buy abuse. We did not go out there and buy the negative things that might have been put on us. It's not the same as when we go out there to buy a new car
Right.
or buy the groceries that we put in our refrigerator. A lot of these things were brought to us. And so if you can think about it in that manner, it will help you to let go
Yeah.
of some of those guilt, shame, and regrets. So tonight, I really want to leave you guys, because this has been full and this has been awesome. And I want to leave you with this. What emotions do you hide? And it's not for you to answer, it's for you to be reflective about.
Right.
And I'm going to give you homework. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. But if you can find some time this week to write out what emotions do you hide, and if I was to allow them to be open, what would the benefits be? And so I leave you with that. What emotions do you hide? If I allow them to be open, what benefits will I get from them? What benefit would it be for others? So I greatly enjoyed this topic tonight. I am glad that it is aligned with Dee and what Dee wanted tonight. I want to remind everybody this topic is not just for women, it's for everyone. Vulnerability is a human experience. I think Angel said that. Thank you for that. And so I thank you guys so much for joining us. I
Yes.
thank you so much. I'm going to be respectful of your time. I'm going to end this right here. And let me see. I think I have a couple comments that I want to pop in before I end. Um, Dre says, awesome, awesome discussion. Thank you, Dre. And then Angel says, great question. So
Yeah.
join us again next week. If anyone on this live tonight have a topic that you would like for us to talk about next Tuesday, we welcome it. And whatever topic you think that could really engage like we did tonight, provide you with gems and something to walk away from, and for you guys to fill us up so that we could do
Yes.
this. Please do. So good night, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday and enjoy the rest of your week.
And share this. It might not be for you, but somebody you know needs it. So please share. Share,
Oh,
share,
I
share, share,
agree.
share.
I agree. Take care. Have a great one. Good night.